Chapter 8, Service Failure and Service Recovery, Part 1. In Chapter 7 last week, we discussed how to create the foundation for loyalty, and I introduced the wheel of loyalty. Do you remember the last part of the wheel of loyalty was service recovery? Yes, service recovery affects customer loyalty. So in chapter 8 and 9, we're going to discuss how to recover customer dissatisfaction and thus eventually build the long-term relationship. So in part 1 of service failure and service recovery, first, we are going to define service failure. What is it? Second, we are going to identify different types of service failure or customer complaints. Third agenda is what are the typical response to customer dissatisfaction? How customers react to service failure situation. Next, we are going to discuss service recovery. What is it? Definition again. And the last discussion agenda of chapter 8 is why is important? Yes, service recovery affects the long-term relationship. In other words, customer loyalty. That's the importance of service failure. And then I'm going to introduce service recovery paradox, which is the best framework to explain the importance of service recovery in building the relationship with the customers. Building long-term relationship with customers. In other words, creating customer loyalty. That is our goal, ultimate goal. Financially, it doesn't make sense a lot because attracting new customers costs more than keeping a current existing customer. How much? At least 3 to 5 times more expensive than retaining the current customers. That means if you're able to keep or retain the existing customer, it will result in great saving in terms of sales and marketing expenses. As we discussed in chapter 6, simply loyal customers, customer loyalty equals profit for the service providers. That's why we have to create the long-term relationship with customers or create the customer loyalty. How? Yes, we provide perfect error-free service, zero defection. That should be our first goal. At the same time, we know that it is kind of unrealistic goal because we are selling service which is intangible, invisible, and inconsistent. Because of this intangibility, inseparability, more importantly, variability. Because of these factors or characteristics of service, providing error-free service or zero defection is almost impossible. In other words, service failures are inevitable in the transaction of service. So that service failures are inevitable in the service industry, and thus effective service recovery is important because it affects the long-term relationship or customer loyalty. Based on this understanding, we can continue the discussion of service failure and service recovery. Let's define service failure or service breakdown first. What is it? Definition. According to Berry and Parasuraman, service failure is a fraud outcome that reflects a breakdown in reliability. Simply, service failure is a breakdown in reliability. Another popular definition of service failure is it is something that does not meet the customer's expectation. According to Kelly and Davis, service failure is failing to meet the customer expectation. So we can define service failure as a breakdown in reliability or failing to meet the customer expectation. We can identify different types of service failure cases, and then they can be classified into subcategory. First, service failure can be classified as either outcome failure or process failure. First, outcome failure. This problem with core service. Core service for the hotel, that means comfortable stay in the guest room. Core service for the restaurant, of course, delicious, quality food and beverage. There's something wrong with your core service. You can classify them as outcome failure. On the other hand, process failure. How to deliver the core service. There's some problem with the manner in which the core service is delivered. Simply delivering the core service, that's not good enough. How to deliver it? There's some problem with the way or the manner in which the core service is delivered. We can classify those kind of service failures as process failure. Customers expect different types of recovery when they experience outcome failures or process failure. For example, financial compensation, actual outcome of compensation, and quick action, quick recovery action. They can be good recovery effort for the customers experiencing outcome failure. On the other hand, sincere apology, proactive response, those are good recovery effort perceived by customers experiencing process failure. A lot of industry data or empirical studies indicate that customers who are experiencing process failures are less satisfied after service recovery. That means it's more difficult to satisfy the customers experiencing process failure. So that service provider, they have to focus on how to deliver core service. That is more important than simply providing core service correctly. Also, service failures can be classified as a result of omission or as a result of commission. First, service failure as a result of omission means some part of a service offering is not given, is missing. You asked or you ordered something, but that was not delivered. It is a case of service failure as a result of omission. On the other hand, yes, the service you ordered is delivered, but the service does not meet your expectation or your standard. Then it is also service failure as a result of commission, not meeting the expectation. Here's another popular way to classify the customer complaint or service failure. We can use the following 4 subcategories to classify guest complaint. First, mechanical complaint. It is related to hotels or restaurants' tangible service element. For example, equipment malfunction, something wrong with climate control, lighting, room furnishings, elevators, television set. Customer complain about this kind of equipment malfunction. They can be categorized as mechanical complaint. Second, attitudinal complaints. It relates to employees' interpersonal skill, attitude, behavior. For example, the guests feel insulted by rude hotel or restaurant employees. They found the lack of smile, lack of sincerity. It's not my job syndrome from the employees. Then it is definitely service failure or customer complaint case. Attitudinal complaint. Third, service-related complaint. There's a lot of problems with various hotel or restaurant services. For example, long waiting time for check-in, check-out, missed wake-up call, ill-prepared food. They can be classified as service-related complaint. Lastly, unusual complaint. In this case, hotel or restaurant have no or little control of the circumstance, but still customer complaint. Then you can categorize them as unusual complaint. For example, absence of swimming pool, no room service, limited menu, lack of public transportation. Sometimes we have no or little control over this circumstance. Still, the hotel or restaurant operator, they must address or anticipate this kind of guest complaints too. Now, you are seeing the list of service failure or customer complaint cases commonly found in the hotel industry. We can classify each of them using the categorization introduced in previous slide. First, slow restaurant service. Slow restaurant service. It can be classified as service-related customer complaint. Slow checkout. I think it can be also classified as service-related. Next, inefficient staff. Inefficient staff. It can go either service-related or attitudinal. Maybe attitudinal complaint. Next, receptionist unfriendly, unhelpful. It's very obvious, right? It is attitudinal complaint. Food and beverage not of high quality. Not of high quality. Maybe unusual complaint or service related. When you arrive, the room was not ready. Room was not ready. So you have to wait 30 minutes or 1 hour. Again, it is service related customer complaint. Kept waiting for table or at the breakfast. Again, long waiting time, service related customer complaint. Items in room not working. For example, TV, telephone, internet. It is typical examples of mechanical complaint. Variety of food, limited. Maybe it can be classified as unusual customer complaint or service related. I think it's more like unusual customer complaint. Staff will not put themselves out to help. Again, it's the employee's attitude, behavior, right? So that it is more like attitudinal customer complaint. So again, we can classify different types of service failure using different categorization. Next question is, what are the typical response to dissatisfaction? how customers react to service failure situation. Customers normally choose one of the following three options when they experience service failure. First, they complain. Voice. Complaints to service providers or complain to the third parties. That means they intend to maintain the relationship. They don't want to break the relationship. Customer complain, which is a good sign. They have intention to maintain this relationship. So first, customer, they complain to the service provider. They directly complain to the service provider, which is good. Because if they are unable to secure the satisfactory result or response from the service provider, they may complain to the third party and eventually complain to their family, colleagues, or friends. In other words, they spread negative word of mouth to others. So it's very important for the service provider to make sure that customers directly complain to the service provider. Otherwise, they may complain to third party or they may spread negative word of mouth to others. Then, why do customers complain? Why they do complain? First, customers do complain to obtain compensation, particularly for those customers who experience financial or economic loss. They need fair compensation, financial compensation. Some customers, they do complain to vent their anger, to reveal their self-esteem or sense of fairness. They have to find someone to complain, to vent their anger. Some customers, they do complain to help service provider, to help them improve overall service quality. They want to let them know what's going on. Particularly when customers are highly involved in the service, they may complain to the service provider to help them to improve overall service quality, to help them identify the gap between their performance and actual customer expectation. The second option customers may choose when experiencing service failure is switching to other service provider. We call it exit. Stop purchasing the company's service or product and then switch to another service provider. In other words, customers leave your companies. Exit. Why do not complain and simply exit, simply leave the companies? First, because of a high transaction cost involved in complaining behavior. In order to complain, the customers, they have to invest their time, financial resource, and their effort. Together, we call it transaction cost. Because of high transaction cost, customers, they give up complaining. Instead, simply switching to another service provider because of a high transaction cost involved in complaining. Some customers, they believe their complaints are not welcomed by the service providers. Then why not complain? Simply switch to another service provider. And in some cases, complaining is more trouble than changing the brand. You have to find someone to complain and you have to explain the whole story and you have to wait for response and the recovery outcome is not desirable, then simply change the brand. Complaining is more troublesome than switching to another service provider. Then you stop complaining. simply change. Some customers, they're afraid of confrontation. Yes, possible. Some customers, they're afraid of confrontation. You insist. And then service providers, they may have a different idea. Nobody wants to be in this kind of situation. Customers are afraid of confrontation. Sometimes customers, they do not know how to complain, who to complain. That's why service provider, they have to educate their customers how to complain, who to complain, and make it easy for them to complain. Again, those unhappy customers, if they do not complain to you, again, that means they may complain to the third party or their friends and relatives. In other words, they may spread negative word of mouth to others. So it's very important for the service provider to receive the customer complaint directly from the customers. That's why you have to educate your customers how to complain, who to complain. Some customers, they give up complaining because they believe they have to wait a long time for response. And eventually, whether or not to complain is decided based on how much time and effort you input and what are the end result, outcome. You always compare the input and output. And if input is bigger than output, you give up. If output is bigger than input, then you do complain. We call it equity theory. In order to receive customer complaint directly from the customers, preventing the possible negative word of mouth, you have to identify customer complaint barriers and create the strategy to reduce those barriers. Customers, they do not complain. Why? Identify customer complaint barriers. Based on that, you have to create a strategy to reduce those barriers. First, customers, they do not complain. Why? Because simply it's inconvenient. It's very difficult to find the right complaint procedure, right person to complain. It requires substantial effort, physical effort to complain. Then simply give up complaining. Now your strategy to reduce these barriers. Make customer feedback easy and convenient. For example, you can put customer service hotline numbers, emails, and postal address on all customer communication materials so that customer can find your contact and can find information about the overall procedure to complain. So make it easy for the customer to contact you, to complain to you. Second, customers, they do not complain because they doubt the final outcome, doubtful payoff. They think the service provider will not take my complaint seriously, so that I better not expect a fair compensation or end result. Customers, they are uncertain if their action will be taken by the company to address the problem. So they do not trust the service provider. Then your strategy to reduce these barriers. You have to assure that customer feedbacks are taken seriously. Yeah, let them know. We take your feedback, either positive or negative, very seriously. Based on your feedback, we're going to improve overall service quality. You have to let them know these kind of things. So have service recovery procedure in place and communicate this to the customers. Also, you can feature service improvement based on the customer feedback. Based on the customer feedback, you have to keep improve overall service quality, keep modify the questionnaire, customer feedback system based on customer feedback. So again, simply let them know you are taking the customer feedback very seriously. And based on customer feedback, we're going to improve overall service quality. Third, customer, they do not complain because it is unpleasant. Nobody wants to complain. Nobody want to be in the situation of confrontation with service employees. And they may fear of being treated rudely by service employees. Possible. They don't want to be embarrassed. Again, complaining behavior is simply unpleasant. Then your strategy. Make customer feedback experience positive. How? First, you, particularly frontline employees who receive the customer complaint, you must thank customers for sharing their experience, sharing their feedbacks. So that you have to train your employees, particularly frontline employees, not to hassle. And your frontline employees must take customer feedbacks seriously. If possible, you have to allow the anonymous feedback. Some customers are very shy, so it's very important to have this kind of anonymous feedback. So again, the key here is you have to take the customer feedbacks, complaint directly from the customers, preventing possible negative word of mouth. How? You have to identify customer complaint barriers, and you have to develop the strategy to reduce those barriers. We are talking about how customers react to service failure situation. The last option they may choose is loyalty. Continue to buy even when they are dissatisfied. They do not complain. They do not leave. They keep purchasing your brand, your service, your product. We call it loyalty. Customers do not take any action. Why? They do not take any action. No complaint, no leave. First, customers hope things will be soon get better. Typical loyal customers' behavior, right? Loyal customers, they do not complain. They do not leave. They believe, they hope things will be soon get better. And they think they have no other choice. And as we discussed, because of a high switching cost or lack of perceived differentiation of alternatives, location problems, or your habit, purchasing particular brand or service has become your habit. You don't want to change. Nobody wants to change their habit. The third option customer may choose is loyalty. Continue to purchase even when they experience service failure. Okay, let's summarize the customer's typical response to dissatisfaction. When they experience service failures, first, they may take some form of public action, such as complain to the service company directly, complain to the third party, or take some legal action to seek fairness. Okay, second option, take some form of private action, such as simply switching to another service provider, defection, leaving the company. Right? and spreading negative word of mouth. Take some form of private action. Third option, take no action, no switching, no complaining. Okay? So customer take one of three options when they experience service failure. The customer take any one or combination of these response. Okay, this slide summarizes customers' typical responses to dissatisfaction. We have discussed service failure. Let's move on to the next topic, service recovery. What is it? Definition first. Let me introduce three popular definitions, including my own definition of service recovery. First, service recovery is action in response to service failures to recover satisfaction. Service recovery is action to return aggrieved customers to a state of satisfaction. And in my papers, I define service recovery as the process of dealing with service failure situation with the aim of restoring the customer's satisfaction. So, goal of service recovery is to recover customer satisfaction. Why is service recovery important? Why is it important? Theoretically, it plays a crucial role in achieving customer satisfaction by testing a company's commitment to satisfaction and service quality. Simply, as I always insist, it affects customer loyalty, and customer loyalty means future profitability. For example, 25 to 85% increase in profit can be achieved by reducing the customer defection rate by 5%. In other words, if you are able to reduce customer defection rate by 5%, you can expect 25 to 85% increase in profit. Again, customer loyalty equals profitability. The best framework, theoretical framework to explain the importance of service recovery is service recovery paradox. Customers who experience service failure that is satisfactorily resolved may be more likely to make future purchases than the customers without problems. In terms of building long-term relationship, in terms of affecting customer loyalty, recovery satisfaction is more efficient or effective than initial satisfaction. That is the focal point of service recovery paradox. Service recovery paradox looks like this. As you can see, there are two groups of customers. First, blue dot line, customers without service failure. They experience great service, no service failure case. Let's call it initial satisfaction. There's another group of customers who experience service failure and then successful service recovery. Solid red line, customers with service failure and successful recovery. Let's compare their loyalty level. Again, when service failure happens, customers are unhappy, definitely, right? So that their loyalty level drops. But if they experience great, successful service recovery, then their loyalty level goes up dramatically, even exceeding initial satisfaction group. You can see the difference between initial satisfaction and recovery satisfaction in terms of customer loyalty. Again, customers who experience service failure, when they experience it, their loyalty level drops like this. But if they receive great service recovery, then their loyalty level goes up, 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 even surpassing the initial satisfaction group. like this. That is paradox. That is service recovery paradox. Here, key point is if the second service failure occurs, this paradox disappears. That means customers are willing to give you a second chance, but not a third chance, fourth chance. If you make the same mistake again and again, this paradox disappears. Following the implications of service recovery paradox. First, well-recovered service failure, great service recovery can bring more loyalty than a constant good service without failure. Again, initial satisfaction, recovery satisfaction. When we compare the impact on the customer loyalty, we see stronger relationship between recovery satisfaction and customer loyalty. Service failure can become one of your best assets to build customers' loyalty. When you receive customer complaint, it is not the crisis, but the opportunity to build even stronger relationship with customers. Specific message from service recovery paradox. Mistake, service failure, open a space for conversation with customers, giving you a chance to see where you need to improve. Customer loyalty becomes stronger when your recovery effort exceed customer expectation. Third, service recovery paradox cannot sustain on its own to strengthen the loyalty. Great service recovery without great service in normal time is empty shell. That means we still have to focus on delivering service as promised. That is first element of service quality, reliability, right? If service failure happens, it is not crisis, it is opportunity to build even stronger future relationship. That is the message of service recovery paradox. This is the end of chapter 8. We're going to continue the discussion of service recovery in chapter 9. Thanks for your attention.